story time. We're going to continue on today with Sheriff in a Small Town, and we're going to spend a day around town. Talbot arrived early to the courthouse hoping to beat Rocky in. Unfortunately, Rocky was already there sorting through the day's faxes, mail, and projects. He peered in, and when he saw Rocky busy, solemnly walked in, opened the door of the cell, walked inside, and closed the door, tossing the keys onto the floor. At the sound, Rocky looked up to see his deputy sitting dejectedly on the bunk. "Talbot, what the hell are you doing?" Talbot looked up sadly. "I belong in here. I'm a serial killer." Rocky started from his chair. "What?" "Yeah, I murdered a bowl of cornflakes this morning." Talbot broke into raucous laughter as his picked up the keys, about to unlock the cell, and then turning abruptly, decided that joke deserved a few minutes of cell time. Rocky had gotten to updating the cold cases files when he remembered Talbot was still locked up. Unlocking the cell, he found his deputy fast asleep. He put in a quick call to Michaela to come and wake Talbot up in her usual manner. Arriving quickly, she walked briskly to Rocky with her hand stretched out. Placing the keys of the squad car in her hand, she did an about-face and marched out. Returning, she placed the keys on the desk and with a serious expression entered the cell to her husband. In her hand was the megaphone that Rocky placed his hands over his ears. She raised it to her lips, inhaled deeply, and then set the megaphone aside and kissed Talbot gently. He woke up smiling. Seeing the megaphone, he was glad she had chosen the gentle method. Oh, come on. It was entirely at her own discretion which she used. Talbot offered to go through the rest of the files and update any that needed it. Then he planned on importing them into the computer. Rocky could type, but wasn't very fond of the computer. He'd been excited about the modernizing it, but the thrill soon wore off and he had gone back to the old ways. Talbot was not only good at them, but eager to learn more. When they finally were modernized, it was going to be because of him. Rocky went to the squad car to do his rounds. He paused with the door open. The sun was warm and there was a good cool breeze and the scent of flowers in the air. A perfect day for walking. Shutting and locking the squad car, he decided to start on the side streets where the summer smell of flowers and mowed grass was strongest. Walking up Oak Street, he was surprised to see Houston Grange's horse walking down the street alone. The horse was a bit of a celebrity, having been the only horse to spend a night in jail for public intoxication. Rocky pondered on the humor of a horse with a police record. Houston had been in the other cell, so in the morning they had left together. At first, Rocky was worried that Houston might have fallen off, but the horse had neither bridle nor saddle. Intrigued, he allowed the horse to pass him and followed. The horse seemed to have a definite destination in mind, and as they walked, Rocky wondered at Houston's lack of imagination. His horse was named Horse, his dog was named Dog, and it surprised him when he found out that his wife actually had a name, Savannah. He was actually more surprised that someone would have married Houston in the first place. The horse paused at the corner of Oak and Elm, then breaking into a trot, headed straight for the tavern. Approaching close on his hooves, he expected them to shoo the horse out, but they didn't, and Rocky was burning with curiosity as to why. Peering in the door, he was greeted with eerie cries of welcome. At the end of the bar, Horse was having his own serving in a bowl. Rocky went over to the bartender for more information. "So, is he one of your regulars?" Bartender nodded, grinning at one of his best customers. "Yep, he's got his own bar tab, too. Comes in every couple of days, has his one beer, and heads home. Never gets drunk and never causes a problem. Hell, I'd take a whole room of customers like him over some of the meatballs I get." Horace casually lapped up his drink, walked over, and nuzzled the bartender home. Rocky followed him to see what would happen next. Horace got to his stall, raised the bar, walked in, and pulled out a rope, closing the door after him. In a place like this, you never knew what you might see on your rounds. Down at the end of the street, he saw Cat Charleston out running around as if she was surrounded by bees. Getting closer, he found out she was just trying to get her chickens back in the coop. Neighbors had heard the commotion like a well-drilled team got into a C formation and herded the chickens home. Rocky assisted just for the fun of it, and then when all the chickens were safe and sound, people just walked home as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. I'm going to turn this light off. I don't think I need it. Oh, much better. Up and around, he turned onto Main Street. Passing the cafe, he thought he might be a good idea to bring something to Talbot. There was a commotion at the counter, and it seemed the entire staff was involved. It wasn't anything major, but someone had made a complaint, and the cook was taking it as a personal insult and was angrily calling out the customer. Kitchen staff were all behind them, and the waitresses were doing their best to keep the customer and chef separated. Rocky tried to intervene and was held back by who wanted to see the show. Smelling something that alarmed him, Rocky broke free and darted for the kitchen. Someone was letting the bacon burn in the oven. The orange-red flames showed through the glass door. Throwing a bucket of flour and closing the door, he shut off the oven and fan. Flames quickly died out. His initial instinct had been to pull a fire suppression system, but quick thinking told him that wouldn't help in the inside of a closed oven. He left to head over to the hot dog hut instead. Called over the radio to Talbot to see if he wanted anything. He was reminded that across from Joe's garage was an establishment that served corned beef on rye. Talbot would take a break and meet him there. Sitting at the window eating, they looked out, working at the repair shop. He was doing an oil change and had a truck on the lift. Talbot was looking intensely at the drain tank. Can you see is that the drain tank 1 or 2? Rocky squinted to get a better view of the number. 2. Talbot was now watching him closer. What difference does it make? Rocky was intrigued. Watching this intently, something good was about to happen. Hey, number 2 has a loose bowl. If he hasn't fixed it yet, this is going to get good. Now Rocky was just watching just as intensely. Joe had a wrench resting on the edge of the bowl. From his pocket, he pulled out the tool for taking off the oil filter. The filter went into the bowl and the wrench on the lip. As they watched, the filter slid to the center and must have been blocking the drain. He leaked out of a crack and began to run down the tank. Joe had been fiddling with something else, and when he turned, he noticed the oil leaking. Reaching inside to move the filter, his foot slipped, the pan tipped, and the oil covered Joe in front of the floor. Rocky and Talbot applauded as Joe went sliding around the shop trying to get rags. He was skating around like Sonia Heaney, just not as gracefully. They let the waitress know they'd be right back, but had to go on a rescue mission. Running across, laughing as hard as they were. Looked like a Charlie Chaplin movie as Joe was running in place going nowhere. Talbot told him to settle down as Rocky pulled the bag of cat litter and spread it around. Risking over, they went back to When they were done eating, Talbot went back. Rocky went to finish his rounds. Agnes was at the lake with her dog Tucker. He'd grown into a good-sized. Agnes and he were doing their best to train him. Agnes had a frisbee, and Rocky watched amazed as Tucker made catch after catch. After a particularly good flying catch, Rocky applauded. Tucker, hearing Rocky's voice, flying into Rocky. Leaping high, he barreled into Rocky backwards into the water. Agnes came running, but her laughter and the assistance. Climbing wet and muddy, he shook himself off. Calling into Talbot, he suggested that they call it a day. By the time he got home, cleaned and changed, the day would be pretty much over. Tomorrow would be Talbot's day for doing the rounds. And the rounds were interesting and entered into the day book, and lately they made very interesting and sometimes hilarious reading. So the next one is Lost and Found. That's in the one where a little boy gets lost. So we'll continue on with that. So that's it. Not doing good. That's it for today. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow or next couple days when I do the. In the meantime, be good to yourself and take care. Bye.